So, completely ready.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Don't judge me.
Anyway, yes. Looks like you're doing
Right.
something.
Yeah, got me notes.
Oh, right, okay. That's alright.
Okay, now.
Hello and welcome all into the MO podcast. As always, you're here with me, Consummation.
And me, Atreya.
And today, what are we going to be talking about?
So, I'm prepared.
Thank fuck.
So we're going to be talking about the Phillip Island murder of Beth Barnard. Now, I know that you're actually familiar with this case as well because I got you hooked. So, if you want to just dive in at any point, do feel free. Or if I get anything wrong, correct me.
I'll try.
I was drunk when I wrote the notes. There's a lot of notes, but I was also drunk.
That's how this podcast works.
So, you know. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a summary of the case and then we'll pull it apart.
Okay? Yeah.
So, the summary is on the 23rd of September 1986, on Phillip Island, Australia, murder victim Beth Barnard was found in her home, basically stabbed to death. Beth had been having an affair with a prominent family member on the island called Fergus Cameron. His family owned pretty much the whole island. They were a big deal. Now, Fergus was married and he had 2 kids. Okay, so his wife found out about the affair and drove over to Beth's, killed her good, then drove to a bridge and jumped off it, and her body was never recovered. That's the summary. Sounds pretty open and shut, right?
Yeah, that is what has been reported.
Yeah. But when you pull it apart and really look deep, I don't buy that at all. So, aside from the fact that Vivienne's body was never found, how do we know she's dead? Also, the coroner, he declared her dead only after 2 years of her disappearance. And he was like, I'm pretty much convinced she died by leaping from the bridge. How? How are you convinced? You're a coroner. You deal with dead people. How do you know she's a dead person? Because you can't find a dead body. Not buying it.
Yeah.
So, all right, okay. So, let's go into detail. So, Beth worked 2 jobs. She worked at the island's penguin parade, which is just where you get to watch the penguins waddle backwards and forwards at night.
So yeah, I've got this is actually from
Penguin parade.
Phillip Island penguin parade, and these are the smallest penguins that are in existence. They're called fairy penguins.
They're so cute.
And as you can see, you can watch them from underground or on top.
It's adorbs. So Beth and Fergus actually both worked at the penguin parade, which is they basically had a few jobs together, but that was the main one. They kind of got good friends, and then Fergus decided he would offer Beth a job at his farm as a farmhand to kind of help him out. So they kind of got really, really close. Had a few drinks, had a party at Beth's, ended up sleeping together, and then they began this affair. So, Vivenne had a conversation with her sister-in-law, Fergus's sister, and she'd said, you know, she kind of knew about the affair, she was really depressed, she'd suggested counselling, he said no. And she pretty much admitted to his sister that if it hadn't have been Beth, it would have been somebody else. Like, basically, we're kind of done. He's having an affair. It could be anybody. Now, if we look at the timeline of the day that Beth was found murdered, so 8 o'clock in the evening, Fergus is just left work from the Penguin Parade. He goes over to Beth's. She's not at work that day because she's feeling sick. She's got a cold. Vivenne, Fergus's wife, is sat at their house at home with his sister Marnie. Bear in mind, Vivenne knows he's supposed to have left work at 8 o'clock. So 9 o'clock comes and Fergus leaves Beth's house and heads home. He gets home around 10. I don't know how far it is from his to Beth's, but this is an hour. And he then proceeds to take a 25-minute business call. Now, at this point, Vivenne is fucking livid because he's already like 2 hours late from work. Where have you been? Doesn't take that long to get home. You didn't even bring me any wine. She's also sipping a glass of wine there, but only one. So Fergus's sister Marnie's like, oh, this is a bit, I'm just going to leave.
Awkward.
Yeah, orcs. So she leaves. So Vivenne then, after he's finished this call, she's foaming. She accuses him of having an affair, and she hits him with a wine glass. It smashes, it cuts his ear, smashes all down his back, and he then needs to go to the hospital for stitches. So Vivenne calls Marnie up again. She's like, oh, no, it was real orcs, but I need you to come back over to watch the kids because I've got to take Fergus to A&E. They didn't tell the hospital staff what happened. They just kind of showed up covered in blood.
So it's a weird one, that, isn't it, with the hospital staff, because they weren't forthcoming about what had actually happened.
Nope.
They just turned up, and they were there for a good few hours, and it was just something's happened kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I guess probably from the hospital's perspective, maybe they just thought, well, this is a domestic that's got out of hand. I don't know how many domestics there are on Phillip Island, but it seems pretty small.
So,
maybe
I mean,
quite a few.
well, for reference, this is Phillip Island. So it is an island. It's connected by a bridge at New Haven and San Remo. And it isn't that big of a place. And apparently everyone kind of knew everyone. And strangers were kind of not frowned upon, but if your face didn't fit in, everyone would know, and then the jungle telegraph would go around, and it'd be like, "Ooh, have you seen that guy? I don't know what he's doing here," kind of thing. So,
yes,
if they didn't know them directly, they would have known about them, especially because Fergus was, as you say, he was a member of this family that owned quite a lot of land in the area, so he would have been well known, and they would have well known. So maybe that's the reason as to why they didn't elaborate on what happened. Like,
let's not mess with the Camerons.
yeah.
Yeah, very possibly. Also, the wine glass that she hit him with was not found at the scene of the crime. Just putting that out there. So, all right, 10:15, they're at the hospital. Fergus gets stitches for the cut on his ears, gets the cuts on his back tended to, and he allegedly says something along the lines of, "At least it doesn't hurt." To which Vivenne kind of mutters under her breath, "Well, lucky for you, because it does for me." Weird thing to say. The hospital staff said that Vivenne didn't have any kind of injuries at all that they could see. She was perfectly fine. So why she would say that, who knows? So, in the meantime, Marnie, Fergus's sister, and her husband Ian, they go to the Camerons' house, and they apparently find blood and glass in the kitchen and the bathroom, which they then clean up. Which still, yes, I guess that explains why the glass is missing, but then there still would have been traces of the glass. You know, I mean, are they forensic cleanups? Because I don't think they're that good. It's just sweep it up with a bit of a brush, chuck it
Yeah.
in the bin. It would be in the bin or something, you know what I mean? It wouldn't just disappear. So anyway, it gets to midnight. The Camerons come back home and they talk. Now, Fergus later tells the police in his statement that him and Vivenne decided to divorce and that he would have full custody of the kids as she wasn't a very good mother. That was her words. She said, I'm a bad mother. And she also told him to not expect Beth to be a great stepmother. And that he was an excellent father. Now, by all accounts, everybody that knew Vivenne was like, she was like, she lived for those kids. That was it. Those kids were her absolute life.
Yeah.
So it seems strange to me that she would just be like, yeah, we should probably divorce and I'll just like move somewhere else and you could just have the kids. Yeah, I don't even really want to see them on a weekend. Just
Yeah, it is weird, but I mean, it's one of them. What's that quote? Like, history is always written by the winners, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he said this. Fergus has said this, and there's always two sides to a story, but in this case, there isn't another side because obviously Vivienne's disappeared.
Mm-hmm. It's a weird one, right? So, Vivenne then says to Fergus, I want you to stay at your sister's house tonight. And he's like, no, I don't want to. She's like, no, I really think you should stay at your sister's tonight. Like, really? So he goes, oh, okay, fine. I'm not happy about it, but I'll go and stay at Marnie's. So he goes, Vivenne drops him off at his sister's house down the road. They all live on the same road. Now, at 3 o'clock in the morning, so an hour later, Vivenne makes a phone call to her friend Robin Dixon, and Robin's husband takes the call. And Vivenne asks, hey, can you and Robin come over and look after the kids? Because there's been trouble. But she didn't say what kind of trouble, she just said, there's been trouble, can you watch the kids? So 15 minutes later, the Dixons arrive to pick the kids up, and they notice Vivienne's black purse on the counter. They don't see Vivenne, but they're like, oh, she's must have been in a hurry, she's left her bag. It's at this point that the police believe that Vivenne took the Land Cruiser and drove over to Beth's. Now, the Land Cruiser was a weird choice because the only people that ever drove it were Beth and Fergus, because it was this like big thing that they just used to haul farm equipment around and supplies and stuff. And Vivenne had her own car, so which was incidentally already fully fueled by her brother-in-law because he thought she was going on a trip away to visit her sister or something. So she had plenty of fuel, she had a car that was hers, and she still took the Land Cruiser, which was weird. 15 minutes later then, so this is 3:30 a.m., Beth's neighbour hears a Land Cruiser approaching Beth's property. Now, I don't know about you, but if I hear a car like down the street, I can't say that is definitely a Ford Fiesta. Without even looking out the window, I don't know what cars sound like.
Yeah, I mean,
specifically.
Yeah, that it's a weird one because I think she lived. I can't remember how the geography went, but I think she lived on kind of a maybe not a dead end road, but you had to go past this neighbour's house, and when you turned around, the light shined into this neighbour's house. Oh no, no. Sorry, no. It was Beth's house. When you kind of turned around, your light would shine. The front lights would shine into the bedroom of Beth's house. So Beth would have. I mean, light shining, headlights shining in your bedroom is kind of going to wake you.
You would have woke up, yeah.
But this neighbour didn't. Yeah, she heard it. She claims to have heard it, and I mean, I know they're a bigger car, but
it could have been any car, unless she can specifically say, "I saw a Land Cruiser."
Yeah, and
she says she hears it.
It can't be. There's other vehicles involved in this farming community kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a bit sus, that one.
It is. So, whoever it is, whether it was a Land Cruiser, whether it was Vivenne, whoever it is, whoever gets into Beth's house, whatever happens, she's stabbed repeatedly. She's slashed all up her face so hard that it actually knocks a tooth out. The house is just like covered in blood, and the killer actually carves an A into her chest. Actually, so deep that it actually cuts through several layers of fat. It's pretty horrific. And then they leave. At 5 a.m., a random bloke in a car passing the Phillip Island Bridge notices a car by the bridge, but he can't remember the make or the model or even the colour. He just says he thought it was weird somebody was there that early, but they were probably like having a piss, and he just carried on driving. The police, incidentally, are going, that was definitely Vivienne's car.
It is actually what he said as well, isn't it? Because there were restrooms at the beginning of the bridge, so he was like, oh, they were just having a... whatever.
Having a piss, yeah, exactly. Exactly, see? But the police straight away, they're like, no, the car that you saw definitely had to have been Vivenne Cameron's. Why? He said he didn't know the make or the model or even the colour. It could have been a double-decker bus that was sat there. He can't remember. He just noticed at the corner of his eye. So again, not really decent evidence. So anyway, let's get back to the Dixons. The Dixons are babysitting the kids. So this is 7:30. Robin's starting to get a bit pissed off because she's like, firstly, I've had broken sleep. Secondly, I've been looking after kids for the last 4 hours. And thirdly, I need to go to fucking work. When is this woman going to pick her kids up? What am I? I'm a babysitting service.
Not feeding.
So, exactly. Breakfast club. Fuck that. So she tries to get in touch with Vivenne on the phone. There's no answer on the phone. So Robin then rings Fergus's brother to ask if everything's okay. Fergus then asks his brother and his brother-in-law to go over to Beth's house to check if she's okay, saying he fears something terrible's happened to her. Now, his first thought at this particular moment is not, why is Vivenne not answering the phone, and where the fuck are my kids?
Where's my wife?
Where are my wife and kids? Yeah. Because, he's like, oh, okay, Robin's got the kids. Why has Robin got the kids? Where is my wife? No, nothing. Just, dudes, go over and please check that my hot-ass girlfriend is okay, because my wife was pretty pissed last night. So Ian Cairns, who's Fergus's brother-in-law, and Don Cameron, his brother, they go to Beth's. They discover the body. Now, they wait until 9:10 to go to the police station. And when they get there, they're very... They didn't just kind of run in and go, oh my goodness, there's been a horrible murder, please come quickly. They kind of hush, like on the kind of, you might want to, could you go to Beth Barnard's house, please? Because I think Beth isn't well.
She's unwell, yeah.
Unwell? Yeah, death will do that to you. Yeah. She's unwell. Why would you... What a weird choice of words. Somebody's either dead or they're not.
Yeah.
She definitely wasn't unwell.
Yeah.
You could clearly tell she was definitely not well, but in a completely different way.
Yeah, the state of her as well is like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, she didn't just she didn't just stand on a piece of Lego. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, so, anyway... At 10 a.m, bear in mind, still no sign of Vivenne. Glenda Frost, who's Vivienne's friend, she gets a phone call. And she's sat with her other friend. And she says to her friend, hey, it's Viv, 2 secs, I'll be right back. She says she is 100% sure it was Vivenne that spoke to her on the phone. And Vivenne was asking her if she'd managed to get a patchwork pattern for like quilts. For a gift she wanted to make for somebody. Glenda says Vivenne sounded totally normal, and she's convinced Vivenne knew nothing about the murder. So, and Glenda's friend Pam was there witnessing all of this. She totally agrees with it. So, if Vivienne's already jumped off the bridge before 5 a.m, how is she then ringing Glenda?
Yeah.
strange. And if they're such good friends, you would be able to tell if it was your friend ringing you. You could tell their voice. You'd recognise their voice.
Yeah, of course. And as well, they had at least a telephone call every week. I think this is what Glenda was saying. They spoke constantly. If they didn't meet up, they went to there was a this was it farming show or a horse show or something, and they were constantly going together. So she would know that it was Vivenne.
Yeah. If somebody rings you, like if somebody rang me that wasn't you and went, "Hey, it's Aunt," I'd be like, "No, it isn't. Aunt who?"
Yeah.
Because I don't know any other aunts, and you're not the aunt that I know because you don't sound anything like him. You would just know. You recognise the voice of your friend. So, yeah, I'm not. So anyway, it gets to 4 p.m. that the following day, and Palm Cameron, Fergus's sister, she sees. It's his sister-in-law, sorry. She sees the Land Cruiser at the Phillip Island Bridge. She takes the keys out. She's like, "Oh, it's been abandoned." She takes the keys out. She takes the black purse out. She locks the car up, and then she rings the police. Vivienne's cigarettes, her purse, and a blood-stained face washer were inside the vehicle. Now, if you remember when the Dixons picked the kids up, they noticed that Vivienne's purse was on the counter. So this was at... what time are we looking here? 3:15. So at 3:15, Vivenne had already left by then. She had her purse on the counter. So what? Are the police saying that Vivenne then got to the Phillip Island Bridge, ready to commit suicide, and then went, "Shit, I've left my bag at home." Drove all the way home to pick her bag up, to drive all the way back to the bridge, to leave her car and everything in it unlocked, and then jump off and kill herself. Because that makes zero sense.
And then what's interesting to note about that is it's an island. This bridge is the only way in or out of it. And when this crime was first reported, they asked, is it Melbourne police officers to come and aid the case. So in this 24 hours time span that no one's seen this car, there has been police people who have an APB out looking for this make and model of the car, and they've been driving past it and gone, "Yeah, that's nothing to do with us, keep going."
What is essentially nearly 12 hours.
Yeah.
They've been driving backwards and forwards. If the van was there when they think it was there at 5 o'clock that morning, they've literally driven past it for 11 hours and not noticed it.
Yeah.
All day long.
So either they're not very good at their job, or it wasn't really there.
It wasn't there. Yeah. Exactly. And it just seemed to me a little bit like, say if Vivenne did do it, right? And so say it gets to but she didn't kill herself, but she wants to go on the run. So she rings her friend Glenda so that she can be like, "Oh, hey, have you got any patchwork quilting, patterns?" And everybody thinks, "Oh, well, Vivenne didn't know anything about the murder because she didn't ring Glenda going, 'Oh my God, I've done a terrible thing,' and she didn't sound freaked out in the slightest." Then maybe she goes back to get her purse to go on the run with her money, but it just seems a little bit like, let's not go Scooby-Doo, let's maybe go, like Sherlock Holmes or something like that. It just seems like a bit Miss Marple. Everything is there, like her cigarette, her specific brand of cigarettes, her black purse, which she left in the house, and a blood-stained cloth.
Yeah, it is a bit...
It's almost staged.
All like someone's wrote this and this is fan fiction. This it's bizarro. It's absolutely bizarro. And I mean, so they think that when the A was carved into Beth's chest, that it was to do with a book by Nathaniel Hawthorne called The Scarlet Letter, where basically this woman is made to wear the letter A for adulteress. Again, that just seems really... Yeah.
It does just seem Miss Marple. It just doesn't seem real.
So the thing that caught my attention with that is that Fergus's family, they were very religious. I don't know about very religious, but they were religious, whereas it doesn't seem Vivenne was kind of pulled into that. Okay, maybe she went to church with them just as a community thing, but it just seems a little bit random that would it like you say, it just seems like it was planted there to show them that yes, Vivenne, the wife, killed her because she was an adulterer.
I mean, they found like cigarette butts and stuff at the scene of the crime, as if the killer had killed Beth and then had a tab. But they weren't Vivienne's brand, so that's a bit of a cock-up.
Yeah.
But Vivienne's blood type, which is A, was found all over the crime scene. Now, at the time, DNA testing wasn't as good as it is now, so they could just tell that it was blood type A. They couldn't tell that it was specifically Vivienne's. There's a lot of people that are blood type A.
Of course, yeah.
You know, could have been anybody. But it didn't go in her favour, really. They were like, yeah, her blood is literally everywhere. Blood type A is everywhere. She did have motive, to be fair. Her husband was having an affair. She also came from a fractured family when her dad actually left her mum for a younger woman when Vivenne was 8 years old. So she kind of already has that trigger.
Yeah.
She'd also rang Lifeline when she was so down about, you know, them going their separate ways. But she did try to save her marriage. She lost weight and she started to dress differently to try and save the marriage. Maybe she saw no other way out other than to kill Beth and then kill herself, but then she would be leaving her kids, and I really don't think it doesn't seem in character with Vivenne. So I did write some questions down, or some just little facts. A bit of a silly one, but I kind of wanted to put it in just because it was mentioned in so many of the documentaries that I watched about it, and I was just like, it's what you do about now. So Beth went on holiday in the Maldives 11 months before she was murdered, and her and her friends were approached by this Indian palm reader, and he was like, hey, can I read your palms? And her friends were like, yeah, definitely. He read their palms, they had a bit of a laugh, and then he got to Beth, and apparently he looked at her palm and said, I'm too tired, I'm not going to read your palm. And then walked away very sinisterly, like, you know, like, there's that lifeline's a bit short there on that.
Not having anything to do with that.
Which, I mean, yeah. But all the documentaries really focused on that, like, it was fate. Like,
no, it's just a little throwaway story. He probably was tired, he's had a long day. Reading palms.
He's knackered. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they might have had him there for 4 hours. Some people are really, really into it.
Yeah, indeed.
You know? Also, the Phillip Island Bridge is not your average place for people to commit suicide. Vivenne lived right near some massive cliffs that would have killed you like that. And the Phillip Island Bridge used to be used by the local teenagers for jumping off for the crack during the summer. So it was known that you wouldn't be killed if you jumped off it. You just wouldn't.
I read that it was like the kids in the summer like tombstoned off it, and the currents weren't horrendous. They wouldn't drag you out to sea, and if kids are jumping off the bridge, then obviously it's not going to knock you out. Kind of thing.
Exactly.
Drag you away.
I mean, the current, I know they were all like, well, bodies are washed away by currents all the time. Yeah, okay, they are, but Vivenne had lots of things on. She was wearing lots of things that weren't found in the car, weren't found at the scene of the crime, so she was obviously wearing them when she disappeared. And if she had jumped into the bridge, those things would have washed up somewhere, like her glasses, her
Yeah.
scarf,
Yeah.
and there was no sign of any of these at
And
all.
and also the police kind of dredged that river as well.
Mm-hmm.
They went
Yep.
they went square by square, and
Yep.
nothing was ever found. Even something that had fell out of a pocket, like if you're jumping off and something's going to come out your pocket, or like you say, your shoes come off, or
Mm-hmm.
a sock or something like that. Nothing was ever found in the
Yeah.
river.
Exactly. So that says to me she wasn't in the river. She'd also before she disappeared, she had been going around telling people, like her friends and family, and that she was going to move away to Melbourne and take the kids. She was going to leave Fergus, move on with her life, take the boys with her, and just fuck off and live her best life.
Yeah.
What? Why wouldn't? If she was quite happy to, yeah, that's my plan. That's what I'm going to do. I'll take the boys. I'll move to Melbourne. Then why commit suicide?
Yeah. So
She was. Go on.
I think like the week before this happened, Vivenne had talked to her brother who lived in Melbourne, and he was supposed to come to see this show as well. And she actually wanted to go and visit him earlier,
Mm-hmm.
but then she kind of just went, "Oh, I think he was busy," and she didn't eventually go, but she had talked to him about the situation and what was going on. So yeah, I don't think she was suicidal
No.
or murderous.
No, and especially since everybody who knew her in the community had described her as a kind, caring, articulate, and compassionate individual who used to take casseroles to people who were sick. Doesn't sound. I mean, okay, yeah, psychopaths they can pull the wool over people's eyes, but she actually doesn't sound like a psychopath. She just sounds like a nice lady. I feel kind of sorry for her. Also, statistically, when a woman finds out that her spouse is having an affair, they tend to take it out on the
Kill
spouse.
partner. Yeah.
Yeah, not the person they're having an affair with.
Yeah, that's the way I'd go.
You cheating bastard.
Yep.
As your head stoved in with a bottle of wine or something.
Yep. That.
So-
yeah.
Also, so here we get onto the interesting bits. So the investigator who analysed the knife that was found at the crime scene, he couldn't definitively say that was the weapon that caused the wounds to Beth. In fact, a knife expert said that the knife that made the cuts seemed similar to a knife that was banned in the 1980s, and it was like a ritual kind of knife. So it had it's something you see in Skyrim or Oblivion. It's got like a straight blade, and then it's got like two prongs coming down. So when the knife was jammed in, it made like a hole and then two little holes, because it was forced in so hard. And the knife that was found at the crime scene was just a regular kitchen knife. So the analyst was kind of like, that I can't say it doesn't look anything like it, There also, the cigarettes that were found at the crime scene that they all said were Viv's, there was no blood on them. So what, she had a tab and then decided to kill Beth?
Yeah. This is it, and as well with the ferocity of the attack, there would have been blood.
She would have been covered in blood.
Yeah. And like you say, women, when they find out they're being cheated on, they usually take their anger out on the partner.
Mm-hmm.
I think a few people in the podcast that I've listened to have said that, not being disrespectful, but a woman wasn't capable of this kind of violence. It was above, and I mean, girl power and all that, and do what you want to do, but the crime scene was that bad. She'd been stabbed multiple times, and with the A being carved into her, it's not something that would be in the mindset of a woman.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand, because they'd said that they think that the first stab wound was when she was like asleep, so that she got stabbed and then she kind of woke up, and then they couldn't quite decide if she just died of blood loss fairly quickly afterwards and she didn't really know where she was, or if she'd fought back, because it looked a bit like she'd fought back, Okay, Vivenne was teeny weeny. I don't know that she was, and Beth looked quite strong. It didn't. I just don't think that would have. No, for me. Also, apparently, she always locked her door.
Yeah.
So how did they get in? There was no sign of a forced entry.
Yeah. So what I heard about that was the first stroke was I think it went into like a shoulder blade or something, but it caused internal bleeding, and it was a slower bleed, so it was a fatal stab, but she still had 2 or 3 minutes before she died. So therefore, if that's the first stab, you wake up, and she did have defensive wounds on her hands and her arms.
Yeah.
And it just kind of kept going. So she kind of bled out from that first one, but there was enough time for her to go, fucking hell, that hurt, and then try and fight back to this person. But again, there was no blood on the cigarettes, in the car, anywhere that Vivenne has claimed to have been.
So this is it for me, right? So they were all about that there was loads of blood type A at the crime scene, which means Vivenne must have been injured if it was her. She had to have been injured if there was blood all over the crime scene. However, there was no blood type A on Beth's body at all. All of the blood on Beth's body was her own. So how does that happen? And like you say, there's no blood in the car at all. But there's blood type A all over the crime scene. It sounds like somebody's bled out quite a bit. It would have been in the car.
Yeah.
If that was the car that was taken.
Yeah, again, it's a little bit Miss Marple, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It does seem very strange. But I mean, apparently 33% of the entire nation have blood type A. So
yeah, because it wasn't. This is Vivienne's blood. It was just this is blood type A.
Blood type A.
I mean.
Now, whatever somebody else who was doing the investigation was saying was the bridge, like the railing that they say that Vivenne jumped off, was covered in salt. And there was no break in the salt at all to say that anybody had even leaned on it, let alone stood on it or disturbed the salt in any way, shape or form. So unless she did a really big jump off the pavement,
like,
skipped the railing,
fucking hurdled it,
like parkour, you know. I just speaking of blood type A, so Marnie and Ian, they reported seeing a blood-soaked towel and face washer at the Camerons' house. So one would assume that if it's blood type A, which we know Fergus isn't blood type A, that was after they'd had the fight with the wine glass. So if there's blood on a face washer at their house, that either has to mean that Vivenne was hurt at the time and covered it up and didn't tell the hospital staff, or she came back to the house after she'd murdered Beth, cleaned up, got her stuff, and then drove away.
Yeah.
But again, it just seemed a bit convenient, you know? Fergus had mentioned that he thought Vivenne had taken the Land Cruiser to fool Beth into thinking that it was him coming up the drive, because he always took the Land Cruiser to her house, and that's why Beth would have been like relaxed and she would have let somebody in. But she didn't let anybody in.
Yeah, in fairness,
she was in bed.
Well, it's 3:00 in the morning. She's asleep, and
she's in bed, exactly.
She's had no phone. Well, Vivienne's not going to ring her and go,
no.
Hello.
Hey, you up? I was hoping I could kill you.
And put on a voice or something. Do you know what I mean? And then go, just leave the back door open, love.
Yes.
So why?
No, exactly. Unless she forgot to lock her door, there was no sign of forced entry. Nobody could have broken in. But at the same time, they then can't turn around and say she must have known the person who knocked on the door because there was no sign of what she let somebody in, because then they're saying that she was asleep when she was attacked. So was she asleep, or did she answer the door to somebody she knew? Which is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Pick a side.
Exactly. And as well, she had a dog that was giving. It was like either in labour. Well, not in labour. He was either pregnant or it had just been given pups, and
Mm-hmm.
she was very faithful, very protective of that dog. So she would have had the door closed. Like it wasn't, the dog wasn't in the state to protect her. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've got a dog, maybe you think, oh, I'll just leave the door tonight because the dog will
Mm-hmm.
start barking if someone comes in. And if
Yeah.
someone came in, then surely the dog, as enfeebled as it is, it would have started barking because it doesn't know that person. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
The dog doesn't know Vivenne.
Mm-hmm.
Vivian's never been there, so
Mm-hmm.
it would have started barking. But it never woke her up because Beth was asleep when all this happened. So
Yeah.
the dog didn't have any reaction
Mm-hmm.
to this. So it must have been someone that the dog knew.
The dog knew exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's my thinking too. Um. So aside from also when Ian and Don went to the police station to report that Beth was unwell, apparently they couldn't agree on many aspects of their statements. They had differences in their statements, which was kind of weird. Police were also concerned about Fergus's seeming lack of distress at the death of Beth or the disappearance of his wife, and he never mentioned his children once. Apparently, he just kind of sat there, like, quietly, just zoned out, which I get. Like, people grieve differently.
Yeah.
So, you know, that could be the police jumping to conclusions. You know, you just don't know. But Beth had sent a cassette tape across to her friend who'd moved away, and she talked a mixtape. But she recorded this cassette and she sent it to her friend, and she was talking like about what happened and stuff in her life and just a general like update. And she was talking about a man who was obsessed with her and followed her around, mowed her lawn, and bought her flowers. Apparently, the man left the island shortly after her murder, so police were thinking maybe he's a suspect. She also had a friend called Michael. I don't know if it's the same man. They don't mention the name of the man who brought her flowers, but she had a friend called Michael that she was quite close with, and she mentioned that he was infatuated with her, and he didn't seem to. It didn't sink in when she said that she was in a relationship with Fergus. He clearly wanted to be in a relationship with her, and she was kind of like, "So me and Fergus are in love, you know?"
Yeah.
In love. And he was just like, mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, get your tits out, love.
So the police were kind of like, well, you know, Michael could be a suspect because of, you know, like a rejected love or whatever. But I just kind of think like he was generally just a guy who was in love with her. There's nothing else to go. There's literally nothing else to go on. That's it.
Yeah.
So speaking of the boys, the kids, how do they sleep through Vivenne and Fergus are shouting and blaring at the top of their lungs enough for her to smash a glass over his head? How did the kids not wake up?
Yeah.
They slept through the whole thing. How? It was also said that a witness stated seeing some bloodied paperwork in a house on the island, and the blood later turned out to be Beth's. I think it was at the Cameron's house, and that was before midnight, which means the killer couldn't possibly have been Vivenne because she was at home with Marnie and then at the hospital with Fergus, as confirmed by numerous medical staff. So she couldn't have bloodied any paperwork because she wasn't there. She had an alibi.
Yeah. So what I think with that is, I think it was, or how I've heard it explained away, is that it was some kind of farming receipt.
Right.
And because Beth worked on the farm, she could have easily have come into contact with that, and they've maybe got a paper cut, or if she had a cut on a finger and the blood got onto it. I think
There was quite a bit of blood on it, though.
Yeah, I think, but that's kind of the way that it was explained away. And as well with the kids, I believe I heard the lead detective on this, and he said they didn't really interview the children because at the end of the day they're just kids, and they've lost their mother, and you know what, they're going through this trauma as well. So it's not like they're going to sit them down in a room and go, tell us what you heard. kind of thing.
Yeah.
They just kind of went, oh, okay, we'll just leave them out of this. But like you say, they were shifted on that night from pillar to post. They had multiple people coming round. Surely at some point they may have gone, this is a bit mental. What's happening here?
What on earth is going on?
But as well, I think as well that the police officer who I heard on this other podcast, I can't remember, but I'll probably link it below. I think he said that every time they turned up to like interview Fergus or the family, the children were very defensive. They had the kind of thing of, we shouldn't talk to the police. Now, that's probably been instilled in them. So, obviously, this is all, like, we're just guessing here, but maybe they did not know something, but maybe they were instructed not to say anything.
It's funny that you...
To be honest with you, if I had kids, that's the first thing. Don't never talk to the police. But I didn't kill my wife, allegedly.
But it's funny that you say that because, you know, the lady that wrote the book, the Phillip Island murder book.
Yeah.
So she'd said when she went to the island to do some research, she was basically booted out of everywhere and told, you are not welcome, like, piss off.
Yeah.
And then when the book went on sale, early that morning, somebody went round all the shops that were selling it on the island and bought every single last copy so that nobody could buy it.
Yeah, it wasn't, and I think this is the lady that wrote the book was in this podcast that I'm talking about, and I think she said that she turned up and went into the Harris Island newspaper office, and she asked to look at like the historical clippings, and the person that she spoke to went, "Oh, just wait here," and then the editor came out and went, "No, we don't talk about that here." So she was actively discouraged from doing any investigation into this, any research on this.
Which is bizarre because you would think that people on the island would want to get to the bottom of what actually happened, unless they do know what happened, and they're just not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah. So this is the thing. I think that there's obviously everything is weird in this case, but you've got Fergus there saying that Vivenne said, "Oh no, you're a great dad. Like, I'm a horrible mother. But tonight you go and stay at your sister's." Surely, if she was that, "Oh right, we'll get a divorce and I'm shit, you're the greatest," surely she'd go, "So I'll leave.
Yeah. I'll find somewhere else to go, yeah.
Surely it should have been her going.
Mm-hmm.
If she was that terrible a person, and if you're Fergus and you're hearing all this and she's saying that, you go, right, well, I don't want you staying with my kids tonight. Can you please fuck off? Or do you know what I mean? So, so that's really weird there as well. It is. And like you say, I think the timeline as well is bizarre, because I think it comes down to a lot of the family members of the family are saying, "Oh, it happened at this time. No, it happened at that time." I think when they got the phone call of, "Can you come over and watch the kids?" None of them had none of them had the exact time. No two times matched up. It was kind of off with everything. So it's just, and as well, how did the car turn up 11 hours later?
Exactly. And I thought it was weird that, like, so they'd been, Fergus and Vivenne had been married for I think 10 years or something, and the family's first and foremost concern was to check if Beth was okay, rather than to see if their sister-in-law of 10 years was okay. And by all accounts, they seemed to be quite friendly with her and on good terms. So why would you not check on your sister-in-law first, and you would check on this random girl who You didn't really know that well.
They don't even know her. Like, she works
doesn't make
at
any
the farm.
sense.
It's not
Yeah.
something that she's not been introduced. She was pretty much the mistress. She was hidden away, and
Doesn't make any sense.
he's sending his brother and his brother-in-law round, like to go.
Would he? If it was me, I would want to go myself. I'd be like, "Holy fuck! I'm going to that house now. I'm going to find out if my girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever is okay." I would want to go myself. I wouldn't be like, "Hey, can you just do me a favor and just sit round and see if my girlfriend's dead?"
Yeah.
Weird thing to say.
Yeah, it's just it's
And she was covered with a duvet. Why? Because that smacks of remorse. That smacks that her killer knew her and that they're remorseful about what they did. They're trying to hide what they've done by covering her over.
Yeah, shameful that they can't look at what they've done. Yeah. I mean, Bundy never did that, did he?
No, he kept their heads and
Exactly,
put makeup on them.
Exactly.
Touched them up every now and again.
Jesus, yeah. But yeah,
It just doesn't make any sense to me.
no. I mean, what is interesting as well is, like you said there, at the beginning, the coroner claimed her dead after 2 years, and by all accounts this was kind of pushed through by the family because Vivenne hadn't been in contact with anyone for 2 years. There's still no body. I'm sure, I think it's 5 years in England if you've had no contact or you've not been seen or whatever. I think you're legally dead in 5 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, there probably are ways and means to push that through quicker, but 2 years is just, especially if because there's no body, she could have just disappeared, got on a train and disappeared somewhere.
And this is the same coroner that said, I can certifiably say that Vivenne Cameron had something to do with Beth's murder. How did you come to this conclusion?
Yeah.
You literally have no evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
You have blood type A. Well done.
Yeah. And as well, there's no fingerprints being taken. There's the crime scene. I think he basically turned up at the crime scene and just went, yeah, open and shut. And I think he just he wasn't
so
good.
So say it was Vivenne, right? Say she just in a blind rage and she was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna kill her. She drives over there, she commits this horrible murder, she has a cigarette, and then she leaves, and then she's like, oh my god, what have I done? Oh my god, I'm a terrible, terrible person. I'll just kill myself, and then commit suicide. What, she wiped
Kill
all the
herself
fingerprints
and
from
then
the...
commit suicide. Go on, sorry.
She wiped all the fingerprints from the crime scene when she was going to kill herself.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
She had no intention of killing herself because at the start, because there's no suicide note, which, okay, is not in every suicide. There are not some suicides where there's no notes, but she realised what she'd done, covered the body over, and then went, I can't live with the guilt.
Yeah.
Let's just scribble these fingerprints off and then I'll go and kill myself in case I'm ever caught after I'm dead. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, in that way, you could say it is like a crime of passion.
Yeah.
She's had this incident, like, as far as... I don't want to say as far as she's concerned, but let's just say her life's fallen apart. She's going to get divorced from her husband. She's going to have nothing to do with the kids because she's such a terrible mother. Yeah, okay. Take it out on Beth. Fine. And then have remorse. And then go, oh no, I shouldn't have done this. I'm going to go and kill myself. But the evidence doesn't, even for us two sat here, right, the evidence does not support that. Her bag was left at home. Then her bag was found in the car. This car that was allegedly there at 5 o'clock in the morning disappeared for 11 hours and then turned back up. There was no. She wasn't found on the riverbed. Nothing of hers were found in the river, on the riverbed. The bridge was undisturbed.
The blood-soaked towel was in the car, but there was no blood in the car.
Yeah, there's no fingerprints. It's just, yeah.
I don't buy it.
No, not at all. And I mean, what we should add at this moment in time is that the two, like we were saying, after she was declared dead 2 years ago, she was part of the estate. So basically, as soon as she was declared dead, Fergus got control of the estate, which had quite a bit of money in it because obviously
millions.
Like, prenuptials and all that kind of thing. And they actually went on to build this, which is the Harris Island Moto Grand Prix. So this is built on their land, and from the moment that she was kind of declared dead and after that was built, they started hosting prestigious events in motor racing throughout Australia, and I even think it's had the Formula One there and stuff like that. So they have earned a lot of money from Vivienne's passing. I mean, so it's
like being devil's advocate, I guess if you are part of a prestigious family, if you are part of an important family and you've got a business to think of and a reputation to uphold, I can see why you would want to make this all go away and just brush it under the rug, because, you know, it's going to potentially affect your business and thus your life. But it just doesn't make any sense to me. It just doesn't. I don't think Vivenne murdered Beth. I think Vivenne was a victim herself. I don't think she is alive anymore.
Yeah.
I think she probably died before Beth died, as opposed to after.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go out on that limb as well. I'd say this is kind of, it's not even kind of a cover up, but looking at it in layman's terms, allegedly, this is all hypothetical and we're just spitballing, don't sue us, but I think that this was a family cover up, that as soon as the family found out that divorce was on the cards and this would all be exposed, I think decisions were made, and this is all how it went. And considering the tourism, the land that the Grand Prix that land has brought into the island, I think they could have just sat down with the coroner, with the police officers, and just explained it in that kind of way. This will be good for the town. Maybe something happened, but don't look over there, look over here. And look, you've got all the clues there. Doesn't need Poirot to guess what happened here.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, it looked just a little bit too obvious to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, and it's one of them, when me and you, we are lay people. We are not in, like, we just do this for a laugh. But even when me and you are like fucking texting each other going, this is mental, how could nobody else see this?
Yeah.
Then it's got to a point of going, nah, this is suspect from the top to the bottom. This, and it's a really interesting case.
And relatively unheard of as well.
Exactly.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you, when you text me it, I was like, you know what, I'll have a look at it, and literally in a day, 6 hours of podcasts I listened to about this, and I was still, at the end of it, I was still scratching my head going, why am I the only one that can see this? Surely not, no.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're choosing not to look at the evidence that's in front of them.
I mean, hopefully if this case kind of gets out there and people get a bit like it gets a bit more attention, maybe people will look into it more and come up with some more bits and pieces, and maybe it'll be reopened
Yeah.
and solved properly.
Yeah, that's it as well. I mean, to be honest with you, we've got the hope of the Somerton man that's
Hmm.
being looked into again, isn't it, now with the DNA
Hmm.
testing that they've got. So hopefully, I mean, someone. And Vivienne's family are still adamant that it never, like, all this stuff never kind of happened. I'm sure Beth's family are kind of the same. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for them, but they don't have a justice really, because
Yeah.
they don't have anyone arrested. They've just got this kind of, this is what you're telling me, but is it kind of thing. So no one out of this, as well, Fergus has, but no one, like, the victims haven't come out a winner in this one, and there's obviously no justice, and something has happened. And
The whole thing's set out like a game of Cluedo.
yeah, it is bizarre. And surely, even though the coroners, I mean, I know the coroners said it is a closed case because he's declared Vivenne legally dead, surely it still should be a cold case because there's no body.
Mm-hmm.
We'd
Yep.
That's the least you could hope. So surely it's sat somewhere in the Australian Police Department's file, and someone, hopefully, like you say, if people can just, like, talk about this a bit more, then
Yeah.
get the word out, kind of thing.
Definitely. And Vivenne, if you're still out there, call us.
Yeah, give us, just like,
We're Team You.
exactly, yeah, like, subscribe, and comment, and
Helps the algorithm.
yeah, we'll be in touch.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's a baffling case in the sense that it's just the obvious isn't
Hmm.
being said about it, and it is really, really interesting. And you know what? This is probably the tip of the iceberg about these kind of random weird cases where people have turned a blind eye to stuff, and there's a family who are making money off it. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just fucking Trump presidency, isn't it? Really, I mean, kind of
Yes.
thing. But yeah, it's just two people have lost their lives. I mean, I know Vivienne's not officially dead, but
Yeah.
yeah, she
I would,
might.
I would very much like for her to still be alive and, like sipping margaritas in Malibu right now after marrying some rich man who treats her well. But I don't think so.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. We all have that hope, but yeah, it's just
The evidence doesn't point in that direction.
no. And yeah, on that bombshell. Uh,
What are we talking about next week?
so I'm not going to tell you, but I tell you what, it is an absolute. Oh, it's a brilliant
Belter?
one. Yes, it's a banger next week. It's
Yay.
we're gonna be doing another lot of crack quacks. So we're gonna be talking about mental doctors and
Nice.
and what they've done. And
Love it.
yeah, I'm not gonna give too much away, but it kind of involves breakfast cereal. So yeah, so that's how mental it's gonna be.
Breakfast cereal.
Yeah, breakfast cereal.
Okay.
So no, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Because I
He
wrote
really
it.
wants to tell
I
us.
do. I do. I really do. But I wrote it the other night, and it was just. I'd had a few drinks, so we'll see how it
Obs.
goes. Really, yeah, it was a Tuesday or something. So yeah. But anyway, yes, this has been the MO podcast with me, Contumacious Ann.
And me, Atreya.
Thank you all so much for joining us, and we shall see you next time. Bye.
The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast.
The MO Podcast. The MO Podcast.